All right, Westworld time. Coming at you with a recap and breakdown of Westworld Season 3, Episode 1, Jeff Lowe, John Feitelberg, who's joining us the first time doing one of these. Thank you. Thanks for doing this. This is going to be a fun 10 episodes.
Well, not really my first time doing one of these.
Technically.
That's true. We'll get to that. KenJac with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second time we've recorded this. Apparently, the entire country is working from home, and the software we use is a meeting software, and we recorded this, and it's still processing. So we don't have the file that we tried the first time with this, so we're doing it again, and we're going to try to get this up as quick as possible.
I think this is a rite of passage. Like, this happens to every podcast at least once. It's good to knock it out of just first episode.
To get it right out of the way with the first episode, which is probably the easiest one to explain anyway. So we'll all right, we'll move on. We'll break down not just that. We're going to talk about Season 2. We're going to do a quick recap of the end of Season 2 to start this off, and then we'll break down beat for beat in the episode. If you haven't watched one of these, we do these for Watchmen, did it for Mandalorian, Star Wars The Clone Wars. We will try to break down by character, by storyline, and then take some audience questions and give you the best recap that we can possibly do. So let's start out with Season 2. How did Season 2 end? I know a lot of people were complaining that this first episode of Season 3 did not have a recap. I know, John, you were one of them, of the second season, which is a wild move.
I think it's crazy. I think a recap is maybe the most necessary thing in television, especially nowadays, where like they used to have them all the time, and now they've stopped with them, and now we need them more than ever because we have phones and shit. Like we're not super focused on every TV show anymore. It's like you have to reach the upper echelon, and Westworld is there, but you have to reach the upper echelon of shows to be like, okay, I'm putting my phone down for this hour. There are a few things that demand your attention that well, and so you just need to have a recap for every episode, let alone for fucking seasons.
They also, like KenJac, we're doing a recap of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and they have a device in there that's all based on algorithms and analytics. And I was watching this like, wait a second. Oh, this is another show with a machine that has algorithm. Like, it's like, oh my God, it's so many. You're right. It's like so many different shows. You got to have a cool little recap ahead of time. Just take a reset. Just the bullet points. Just like the three things that I should be able to remember from last episode that are going to play a factor in this episode.
There's very few shows that are like appointment television like this, and I agree with you. I just don't see how you don't give us a full-ass recap, especially considering how confusing the show is at times. Not only for people who we haven't watched the series obviously since the last season, but for people who like are actively watching. Like, I'm confused mid-episode of what's happening of stuff I watched the week before. I need to know what happened in the whole previous season.
Yep. So let's just do that quick. If you don't remember anything from Season 2, I'll give you a quick recap of the things I think that we need to know. And I feel even more comfortable after we've watched the first episode and we've seen the preview for this, what lies ahead for the seasons. End of Season 2, Dolores had basically destroyed everything in Westworld. Remember, a big part of it was the Sublime, the door opening, the afterlife, I guess, for the hosts. She transferred the hosts and the Sublime to a secret place. We don't know where that is. She also transfers from Charlotte's body. She's in Tessa Thompson's body. That's who she was in. She transfers to her original Dolores Evan Rachel Wood host body. Okay, so that's where she is now. Dolores is the Dolores that we have always known. Charlotte her body is being inhabited by a new host who we don't know. We don't know who is in that body. The Charlotte that we knew, dead. Now the Charlotte robot host body, we don't know who's in that. So Dolores, Charlotte's there. We don't know who that is. She makes a new body for Bernard, though, KenJac, I know you like this scene in the new episode. It's a much more upgraded Bernard this time.
Yeah, he's got the fighting skills now. He's like an MMA fighter, Bernard.
Yes. And at the end of Season 2, we see Dolores and Bernard, who definitely aren't the best of friends. They're talking, and Dolores says to Bernard, "It will take both of us if we're going to survive, but not as friends. We are the authors of our own story." They are now outside of the Westworld, in the real world. So that's who we have there. We have Bernard. It's Bernard, but an upgraded version. Charlotte's body, but we don't know who exactly is inside. We don't know the host inside. And then Dolores is normal Dolores now, looking like Evan Rachel Wood. William, the man in black, who has been obviously a mainstay since Season 1. He kills his daughter, thinking that she may not be real. She was real. We see him after fighting. It looks like he's going to die. Looks like he's done. And then there's a post-credit scene at the end of Season 2, and we see that the man in black, William, wakes up in like a futuristic world. He may be real. He may not be real. his daughter, who is very clearly not real, but it's years from now, is talking to him. It's a distant future with a replicated version of his daughter, Emily. So William, we have no idea where the fuck he is. Probably the most confusing out of all these people. Where is William? And then Maeve. Maeve saw her daughter through safety into the Sublime, and then we see she's dead, or she's dying, or she's going to die. We don't know if she's dead or alive, but based on preview material for season 3, we know she's going to be alive. So Maeve, we don't know where she is. We assume she's alive. She's going to be alive at some point. Man in Black, we know he's sort of alive. Whether it's his real self or not, we don't know. In the future. And then Dolores is Dolores. Charlotte's there. We don't know who's inside. And then finally Bernard, upgraded Bernard. I think that really clears up, I think, what at least now we think we need to know. The most important things from season 2, right? I don't think there's anything else.
I think that got it.
Better recap than they gave us.
Sure, I could have said one word, and it was more recap than they gave us. So let's break down the episode. Did we like it, first off? Like, I'll start with you, KenJac. I think we'll set the table. Very not confusing. The timeline seemed to all be around the same time, which is rare for the show, and assuming anything with the show is incredibly fucking foolish, but let's go ahead and just assume, right?
Yeah, oh no, for sure. We're definitely going to be, I think, surprised, later in the series. But for this episode, I think was very straightforward, especially for Westworld standards. And I do think that for them, right, like they were now introducing a new world, which is, for as far as we know, the real world. And that's not something we've gotten so far. We've only ever seen this fake world, which is Westworld. And there's a problem sometimes, sorry, when you're a series, as you expand your world, there's like a pretty decent chance that the bigger you get, the easier the chances for it to all like collapse within itself. And I think that they're doing right now a really good job at keeping this all sort of limited to so that nothing seems too far-fetched, nothing seems too large scale fantastical. I think it's right now it seems grounded, which is good because this has, at least for me, I thought there was an opportunity for this to go really off the rails, and I think they're doing a really good job so far.
Yep, I would agree with that. I enjoyed the episode. What about you, John?
I really liked it. I saw that I went into it not feeling very great because I was mad at Evan Rachel Wood because she put out a dumb tweet right beforehand. And,
wait, explain that. The 3 things you need. Westworld's easy to understand as long as you do blank, blank, and blank.
It was. I forget what number 2 was, but it was like number 1, don't be cooking during it. Like, okay, I wasn't going to do that. 2 was something, and then number 3 was watch the episode multiple times. And
that was 2. 2 was watch the episode more than once.
Oh, that was number 2?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an outrageous request. So I went into it right away being like, you know what? Fuck these people. Make a show that's a little bit easier to understand. And then they did that. So it is I thought it was awesome. It was very good. I actually watched it twice, which I don't think I had to do, but it was almost like it rope-a-dope me. Where like I did get it after one try, so I was like, I gotta watch it again and figure out what.
Yeah, she baited you with that. Which I mean, again, look, I watched it twice too because we break these down. But I think for the normal person who isn't gonna break down episodes, asking for 2.5 hours, especially the first one was so long, it's crazy.
It's 3 hours. I think it was an hour 20 episode. So you want me to watch that twice? She didn't even say, and she also multiple times to me means more than 2. She's talking like 5.
Give it a watch every night until the next episode.
If you wanted to say watch something twice, I feel like you'd say watch it twice. Watching multiple times it feels like it's just asking for more. But no, it was great. It was easy to understand. I thought it was futuristic and cool. I do have some concerns about losing the Westworld essence of it. If you just
the Western,
guess we'll cover all that, but I don't know. Westworld just felt like it was something more because it was not based in reality.
Yep. Well, it does very much start not in Westworld. Starts out, we're going to cover character by character. We're going to talk Dolores. Then we're going to talk Aaron Paul's character, Caleb. Then we're going to talk about the 2 of them together because their storylines converge. And then we'll cover Bernard, Charlotte, and Maeve at the end. We'll try to make this as simple as possible and break it down so we're not all over the place. Starting with Dolores. We see her in China. She's seeking revenge on someone from her past. It's a man who has probably killed a wife, like a past wife of his. She puts on these glasses and he sees projections of events from his past, and he beat her and he abused her, and then she's face down dead in a pool, and he claims to her that he didn't do anything, not his fault. Dolores does not believe it. He's a former executive at Insight involved with Delos and Westworld. She makes him surrender these files over. She's like, this is to spare your life. Give me these files. And Dolores says to him, I'm the last of my kind for now. I need an advantage. And she said, like, think of us as an origin of a new species. So that seems to be the end of it. But then he goes and he chases her with a golf club, and he takes a big swing and a big miss because it's actually a projection of Dolores. He slips and then just smashes his head on the side of the pool and dies. Done.
Cracks it open like a fucking coconut. It's gross.
Just a dead on impact. And then Dolores is actually behind him, and the whole thing was a setup. And as she's about to leave and we're about to change scene, his current wife, who clearly not a lot of good feeling between them, is asking like who you are, and she said, I'm the one who just set you free. So I'm sure we'll get back to that, but that's the first kickoff of this new storyline with this company Insight.
That's a 10 out of 10 scene.
Big time, yep.
That whole opening scene was, I mean, right away you were hooked in.
And
although I didn't like that line from Dolores. To think of me as a new species, I need this to survive or whatever. Like, I wouldn't be too. That almost makes her. It made her feel like weak and sympathetic. Where it's like, no, you are like the apex predator here.
Yeah, she really is. Yeah. Also, the vibes with that house too, because we're coming off the heels of Parasite, got a lot of like rich vibes too. It was like just like this futuristic, sleek looking modern thing. It was kind of cool. It kind of like I like the vibe of that. The opening scene was great because I really didn't know where we'd be. I thought they might lead right after the last episode of season 2. I liked how they started it. The next time we see her, she's in London. She arrives at this event. She's wearing like a regular clothes as I sit here in my robe and we're in our quarantine clothes. I'm in the same thing I wore when we taped the first version of this yesterday. It's up.
I think we all are, actually.
Yeah, I think I'm wearing the same shirt.
She has this dress on, nice looking casual dress, like unzips it and it's this gown. Fucking, that might be the coolest tech. I would love to have like sweatpants that just turn into a suit.
It is real tech. It is. On the Westworld Reddit page, they had like it was from like a Korean fashion show or something like that.
Shit.
Damn.
Were invented. And for America, we had this first with the cargo pants that could turn into cargo shorts. So we've been in the fast casual business for a while here.
If they would have done this years ago, it would have been her just unzippering each cargo leg, just really not graciously. Yeah, by the way, we will talk about the Reddit, the Westworld Reddit, because we did that for Watchmen. Succession, it's a big help, but not as much today because I don't want to get too much into the weeds. So we won't type into fan theories that much yet. So let's get our feet wet, let's get our bearings, and we'll go in because they predict everything way ahead of time, and you got to really have a grasp on that if you want to dive into it. It's like when the Watchmen, they figured out that the dildo was actually Dr.
Excalibur.
Manhattan.
Yeah,
Excalibur. It's like the fuck you're making those connections. You're crazy brain for these HBO watchers. We meet her boyfriend Liam Dempsey. Who is the son of one of the former Insight founders. There are two co-founders, played by John Gallagher Jr., who, John, I know one of your favorite actors who always plays whiny characters.
Just so goddamn fucking whiny. And almost like he was so bad in the news. I mean, not bad. Like, he's an
annoying
actor.
No. I'm the biggest Sorkin fan. I hate the newsroom. I hate it. So,
No. We disagree on this. I love it.
That's right. That's true. That is true.
I'm a newsroom stan, but he like himself, he's not lacking talent. He's just good at being someone who's insufferable. And I found him in the newsroom, and then he just got longer hair, which made me hate him even more. It's like he's very similar to the newsroom character, just with longer hair. And it's there almost every scene I wanted to punch the TV he's on. She's
talking to him. They're kind of going back and forth on things. And there's somebody else there, KenJac, that I know you noticed was in a movie from like 2 years ago that John, you couldn't figure out.
Yeah. It was the guy who plays one of the people that's friends with him, and he's like thinks the whole world is a simulation.
Yeah, he mentioned that, which is a key point. He says we all may be in a simulation. You're like, that's a big fucking wink.
Yeah, so he's like, you think we're on in a simulation or whatever. And I saw his face, and I'm like, I don't know who this guy is exactly, but his face, I know I'm supposed to hate his face. And I like looked through the entire IMDb page and found out that it's the manager from Star Wars Born. That's a dick to Jackson, Maine.
That was such a great catch by you. I mean, I wish we could recreate me because me realizing last episode when we first threw it, because it was such like an aha moment. Like, yes, that's who it is, KenJac. It had been bothering me for 24 hours. It's the fucking manager from Star is Born. I could even remember his voice because I listened to what is it? Remember Us This Way, I think. He's in the beginning of that. And for some reason, I couldn't make the fucking connection with KenJac. Smashed that.
It's that voice. The voice is just like, I'm like, that voice, I know he's an asshole. I just don't know what from. And it took so long, but well worth it.
We then see another scene where our guy Liam leaves. He has to go to a meeting. Dolores follows him. He has a meeting with, I always say I'm saying her name wrong. Again, as always, Palm Clementov, I think, or Clementov. Plays Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy, many other roles. She has a very pronoun-based meeting, referring to he does this, he thinks this, he's kind of the greater power at play. Her name is Martell in the show, and you can tell he's getting very whiny. Liam's getting whiny, not liking what's going on, and then later on, back at his very nice bachelor pad, he's on the phone as peak whininess, not happy with what's going on. And before that, he had explained to Dolores, he showed his big machine, this big ball called Rehoboam, which we'll get to in a second, and what it means in its biblical tie, because we'll dive a little deep on that. And it's a supercomputer, basically, that predicts things with algorithms and analytics and makes decisions. And Liam is not pleased with it because he doesn't know what it's doing. He doesn't know. He's a puppet, right? He is a pawn in the game. He has no control. He's just a figurehead. It's making decisions, and he says that the only people that know what's going on with it are the system itself and the original architect, which is the co-founder of Insight. And Dolores is really trying to get the information out of him. And I want to say, like, why don't you know? And he's like, well, like, if I'm a step ahead of it, it will already know, and I'll be dead just like my father. So he implies that his father's death was in part because of Rehoboam, this big supercomputer. So this is like the thing. This is like the big thing, or at least the start of the big thing this season. It's a supercomputer, and I want to read real quick what it means and what Rehoboam is. It has biblical ties. This is from bustle.com. There was a preview for this season. It was a voiceover of a character, Vincent Cassell, or an actor, Vincent Cassell, who plays a character named Sirach. We'll get to him in a minute. You may recognize Vincent Cassell from really mainstream. He's a French actor. I'd say the Ocean's franchise, the Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13. He's a villain in that. It can be surmised that Solomon, he referenced a system called Solomon, used advanced AI to analyze the patterns of history and chart a course for the future in order to combat would-be catastrophes and bring peace to mankind. And Rehoboam was the son of King Solomon in biblical texts. And that is Insight's new system. They used to have Solomon. Now they have Rehoboam. While King Solomon was famed for being immensely wealthy and wise and for forging the kings of Israel and Judah into one united monarchy, King Rehoboam is more infamous for presiding over his father's fractured empire after the 10 tribes of Israel rebelled and won their independence, leaving Rehoboam to rule only over the kingdom of Judah. And then there's also someone, Jeroboam, who Bustle mentions, would go on to rule the kingdom of Israel, was originally the slave in charge of King Solomon's forced labor. It was Rehoboam's harsh treatment of these slaves that led to Jeroboam's insurrection, the rebellion of Israel. So they're implying that Dolores might be the Jeroboam of this, like uprising over the new leader in charge, which is Rehoboam. So very biblical, which I know all three of us very pumped whenever there's some sort of biblical reference.
Big Bible guys here.
Yeah, big Bible dudes.
It's I KenJac yesterday astutely pointed out that Westworld has been pretty great with names and gave this a thumbs down. And I gotta give it a thumbs down too for different reasons, in the sense that it just doesn't make sense. It makes too much sense for a television show, but it makes no sense for a business to use this.
Yeah, I already get
the name Rehoboam.
Yeah,
it's lame. Everything else in Westworld sounds cool. Like Delos sounds so cool. Insight, and it's not Insight like INSIGHT. It's Insight like to incite in a rebellion or whatever. That's so cool. And then Rehoboam, it's lame. Doesn't roll off the tongue. I'm sorry if you're a big Bible guy. I'm praying for you right now, but I mean, this just sounds lame.
Sense it's too directly speaking to the
Is it too on the nose?
Way too on the nose.
Like why would a fucking business name their supercomputer about like a failed fucking president or whatever he was? If I understand,
it's close enough,
right? Like, I mean, he presided over a fractured fucking world. Like, you wouldn't choose that name for your computer, for your supercomputer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we saw that in the tease with Vincent Cassell talking over it. You can look it up on the YouTube page. Again, it's just a voiceover and one. It's one of like the really basic teases. And so a lot of that is implied, and we can kind of read into what happens. So anyway, back to the bachelor pad. Liam is explaining this, and Dolores like, who is it? Who is the other co-founder? Who is this person? And as he's about to reveal, Martin, the security guard for Liam Dempsey and Insight, comes in and tases the shit out of Dolores, and she just drops. And he's like, do you know the fuck this is? Like, do you know like what's going on? You don't know who you're talking to. It was, and I guess her cover was initially like a teenage girl from Kiev.
Yeah,
that was her initial. And that was, I think, you like the episode, but this I think was this whole little scene was your only sticking point. I think
it's not really a sticking point. I just think it's going to matter because
you think it's a big thing that they're not just going to forget about the fact that she was some random out of nowhere teenage girl from Kiev. I
just think this doesn't like almost like Rehoboam. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like she could have just like we don't know. Like why would she be in the Ukraine? Why would it would if it wasn't going to matter? You could just be like you could say she stole a dead teenager's DNA, and then that's fine. But like the specific references to Kiev, to Ukraine, to the girl's age, it all seemed unnecessary.
Yeah, I imagine it'll mean something because, again, everything seems so on the nose and direct here that we've got to be, I don't want to say missing something, but there has to be something that is going to be a callback when you go, oh, okay, right?
I think it's probably just a random thing. I think people just think you can get blood and guts from Eastern Europe and no one will give a shit because it's Eastern Europe.
Oh, that's fair. That's a good point. But I think we're trained to always assume something means something with this show. You know,
right.
That's our... I guess
Kiev in the Bible is actually a very ancient city with many prophets coming from it.
Kiev had a friend, Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
So let's move on. We have to get to your pretty good Jeffrey Wright impression in a bit. Bernard, Aaron Paul, introduction, brand new character in Westworld. Didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who he would be. I didn't know if he'd be from a different timeline. We eventually find out that he is in the same exact timeline as Dolores, but we start out with him. He is out of money in Los Angeles. He's broke. He's down on his luck. He is skilled, not a bad guy, but he just can't quite fit into the system. His mother is sick. His mother doesn't know who he is. He's a veteran, and he's talking in his ear to Kid Cudi, who is known in this show as Francis. But I'm just going to let you know, we're calling him Kid Cudi. That's just how it is. That's what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. He's talking to Kid Cudi, and he obviously had a really dark ending in the war as a soldier. He works on the side of these buildings, or he works in construction with these robots that look like Chappie.
Big Chappie vibes.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman. Robot doesn't do anything except build and just kind of move around. And then he goes into this app at one point, and it's like a crime app.
I love the crime app. It's the best part of the show. Very,
very Grand Theft Auto vibes. And he doesn't choose like a violent crime. He chooses to go help steal and I guess have people. It's smaller crime. Again, he's not like pressing murder for $500. And he goes and he helps these two. I guess part of the deal making money is helping these two people. One played by Lena Waithe. Character name is Ash, and the other is very much Marshawn Lynch, NFL running back. Possibly future Hall of Famer. So that's crazy. Just Marshawn Lynch. And he has a very big role this season. It's not a one-off. This is not a normal HBO cameo, which I know you love, John. You love HBO random cameos.
The HBO, why did they start doing this? Again, I guess it doesn't really apply. It feels like it applies to Marshawn Lynch because I'll be honest, he didn't jump off the screen. It wasn't like, oh, this guy belongs here. He felt like a cameo. So maybe he improves as the episodes go on, but first glance, I would have said that's a celebrity cameo. But when did HBO get so into this? It feels like an insult to the writers of the show. Like you need a little something extra. It doesn't need anything extra. It's like Game of Thrones did this with fucking Ed Sheeran and Noah Syndergaard. They said Conor McGregor was in the back of one of them. I don't think I ever saw him. But like, you're a great show. Why do you need this strange little boost?
You know what it reminds me of is like you ever play like the 2K games or any of the Call of Duty games? They'll like throw in a cameo and stuff. Like in the storylines in 2K, they have like fucking what's his name? Osmit. What's his name? They have like fucking Michael Rappaport in them. They have like all this Hodge in them. They have like Anthony Mackie. They have celebrities in there. And like that world, it makes sense to me. Like Conor McGregor was in one of the Call of Duties. That makes sense. To me, in prestige television, I think it's really weird to add in this many cameos. Like if it's just this person, like for like an example, like Marshawn Lynch, if they just want to get into acting as the second part of their career, sure, like that's fine. But I think you need to have them do something that clearly isn't Marshawn Lynch. And I think he just looked like it was Marshawn Lynch standing there with a T-shirt on. That was very cool, by the way. I did love the T-shirt, the gift T-shirt that showed his mood. I think that was sick.
The T-shirt is neat. Is that tech? Do we know? Is that a real shirt?
I want that shirt. That's basically Big Cat's idea, right? The gift T-shirt.
Yeah, we've heard the gift T-shirt before. They sell gift T-shirts now, video T-shirts. So
yeah, I think it's just time.
We'll see how the character progresses. It's a wait and see for me on Marshawn Lynch. He even did I'm just here so I don't get fined. Like, what is it? Like, how you are, G? And he's like,
are you high right now? And he's like, fuck yeah, I'm high, or something like that, right?
It was. He said something where it was like it just made me, and maybe just because it's Marshawn Lynch, but just invoked. I'm just here so I won't get fined.
He said, like, I'm not okay. He's like, is he okay? And Lena Waithe says, like, yeah, he's okay. And he's like, I'm most definitely not okay.
Right.
We'll see with Marshawn. I think at least he fit in. Like, it was Marshawn, but I think he still looked the part. We'll just see how his acting skills are. We'll get to the punch later.
I think the minimal sticked. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think we said this last time, too. Like, when you put Roman Reigns and Hobbs and Shaw, you have them do the spear. You have them do their thing if it's going to be like a cameo like that.
You have him truck stick. You have him do the thing where he grabs his crotch and like if when they stole the money from the ATM, he should have dove off, like done the crotch grab, like when he scores.
If he did a crotch grab into like an elbow drop, I would have screamed.
Yeah,
it would have been amazing.
What else? So then Caleb is in a job interview at one point. He's trying to get work. We find out that he misses out on a job offer, and he references like the system. They're like, "Hey, you're qualified. There's anything wrong with you? You're just not the right time. This isn't the right fit." And he talks about the system, and I think the system, and this is not just me, plenty of people think this as well, that Rehoboam is the reference there, that they're like, Rehoboam is determining jobs, it's determining hires, determining people's lives, it's determining society in general. And he seems very anti-Rehoboam, anti that system, which is interesting to note, because in a second, his storyline's about to cross with Dolores. And then I'll note one more thing with him. This technically happens out of order, but we find out that Francis, Kid Cudi, not real. It's a form of therapy, post-war, maybe like PTSD type stuff. And he's talking to an AI version of Francis, and he eventually says, like, I got to stop this shit. This isn't working. Very like Her with Joaquin Phoenix, but much more morbid. And he takes the thing out, and he's done. He unsubscribes from it.
I feel like this is a pretty standard thing in futuristic shows where they have some kind of therapy that is like basically keeping your friend alive forever. And I just can't imagine that this is ever something. It might be something we do in the future, but I can't imagine it's something that psychologists encourage.
No, like good for him to finally be like, this isn't working. Like, what's this doing?
That's the opposite of therapy and acceptance and all of that stuff. It is just living in a fantasy world the whole time. There's no way. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like mental health advocates watch this and like, you guys always say we're going to do this one day. We really shouldn't do this ever.
It's deeply fucked, and I feel like there's no way you get like the family member's permission to like, yeah, use my son's voice for this guy's therapy. I'd be like, fuck no, absolutely not. Also, it reminded me of the episode. It was the Black Mirror episode where Haley Atwell gets the dummy clone version of her husband that died. That like the inflatable sex doll man. Do you remember that one?
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking about a different one. I'm thinking about the one where like they live inside.
No.
Live inside the husband.
That one was great too. That one was amazing. But this one is she gets like a literal like a clone that you grow in the bathtub of her dead husband, and that dead husband doll fucks her. It is unbelievable television. Black Mirror.
They do that. Don't the what do they call themselves in The Leftovers? They go and they place like mannequins of the people who are in their house. That's more fucked. See, they got it. They're like, we should do this because these people they'll hate this. The people in The Leftovers got it. Not that they were very sympathetic figures, but whatever. So their storylines are about to merge. One of the jobs
I guess we should probably do it there. But we were talking about yesterday that this is one of the concerns with the show. Is that it gets
Black Mirror. Yeah, you may as well. KenJac, I know you mentioned that as well. It's the Black Mirror. It's the technology is bad. Again, concern. I don't want to sound too negative. We like the episode, but you're like, all right. let's see, let's not make sure it gets too Black Mirror-y.
Yeah, the crime app thing and the therapy like AirPod, both those things are very Black Mirror-ish to me, where I'm like, reel it back a little bit and get a little more grounded, and then I'm way more into it, because I think one of the most interesting parts about this show is like kind of their discussion on human consciousness and like what it means to be, human and living and all that. And that I prefer they stick to that lane and keep it as far away from the Black Mirror lane as they possibly can.
I very much agree with that. And that the human consciousness thing just actually kind of made me think of Aaron Paul or Caleb when he's finally on that phone call, and at the end of it he's like almost scared to ask, where he's like, yo, no offense, but are you human?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was I like that line a lot, because I do think that,
cool.
that kind of highlights what you were saying, that is what the show is about, is who's human, what's human, not like, well, this is what technology is like in the future. It can be both. Like, there could definitely, and it does feel like I'm kind of complaining about the show, despite me opening with I really enjoyed it, and I did. It's just that there are some things to keep an eye on.
Again, let's remind, second season, not a widely loved season of television. People very skeptical. Not even skeptical. People were very against how it ended and how it went and the way it was ordered. Because when you watch recaps and you go back through, you're like, oh, this kind of makes sense. And you remember that's not really how it was presented as the show. And it got confusing. So no, we're picking apart gradually, but again, I think we like it.
They're like freckles. Like, we're just keep an eye on it. Maybe we'll have to have it removed at some point, but right now we're good. We're okay.
So he goes back into the app, that old crime app, and he has to go get a traditional car, not a futuristic one. What do they call the futuristic cars? Is that something I've lost?
It's a Tesla's, basically. It's literally the Teslas with glass walls.
Yeah,
which
and
seems
so
very not safe, by the way, for collision. Like half the car is made of glass.
He gets like a Range Rover or something. He drives it over to the water, and he has this little thing. He gives it to this group of people, security folks, and he's kind of questioning, like, what the fuck is this? He's like, I don't do personals. Like, what are we doing here? He goes, I'm like the nice crime app guy. I'm just trying to make a quick buck. And this plane lands, and you see inside is Martin, security guy, who tased Dolores, and Dolores. And he walks away for a bit, and he'll be back soon. And Dolores is eventually taken off in that car, and she's being injected with something. She's going to be dumped off. It's going to be over for Dolores. And then a car approaches. This futuristic car approaches them, kind of like in this back alley area. And Martin walks up like, what the fuck is this? And I know we've talked about this before we recorded. You guys didn't notice, but I could kind of tell by the hair. I'm like, I think that's just like a replicated version of Martin. I think that's just him. So, and then back in the car, Dolores is able to escape, and she stabs and kills everyone in the car, security officers. And very cool shot. I think this is the coolest part of the episode. You can see through the front windshield, you see two security guys, and then in the rear view camera, you can see Martin, who is being approached by that car. So you see the action in the rear view camera in the front of the car, and the action happening in front. Dolores gets out, fucking mows everyone down. And then you see Martin got shot. He gets in a car and drives off. Dolores gets back in the car, and one of the guys in the car was in the back, like puking up blood, and she runs that person over. And you see that through the backup camera. Awesome scene. One of the cooler fucking scenes I've seen in anything in HBO in recent memory.
All in a long take, baby. Love long takes, and it's very difficult to do, especially in like a sequence like that, where I think a decent amount of that special effect, especially because of the interior of the car and all that, looked fucking dope. The rear view camera part, especially, was just so sick.
Yeah, very, very strong. I agree. But between that and the opening scene, that's like 20 minutes of unbelievable television. Maybe quite 20, but it felt like. I think that was 5. I feel like the opening was a little bit longer, a little more like 15. But that's a lot more great television than you could hope for in almost any show. And
let's not say Westworld's ever had this issue, but always a reminder that Westworld looks fantastic. Whether you like the show or not, HBO puts everything into it because it always looks fucking great. It's movie quality. It's high budget movie quality stuff. And then Sheena is now going to go track down Martin. She's shoots him, disables him, doesn't kill him yet. And she's talking to him, and she needs to know who this other co-founder is, who it is. And he gives up pretty easily. I think he knows his time. He doesn't really put up a fight. Like, I thought he might like bite a capsule and die or something. No, he's like, yeah, it's a guy named Sirach. But he does mention, like, it doesn't matter that you know his name already. like they're coming for you now. Like they've known that you're going to know this name, basically. Like they're always a step ahead. And then out of the futuristic car pops indeed a replicated version of Martin, and he's telling her, Dolores, like, you're not going to get close to Liam. And she's like, it doesn't matter, you will. Boom, big reveal, replicated host, robot version. And he comes over and shoots him and says like no one's, what does he say? No one's going to miss you or something
miss
like
you,
that.
yeah, because it's a callback to the line that he said to her later.
Yeah, and no one's going to miss
or
him.
earlier,
Boom.
rather. Yeah.
Shoots him, kills him, and then his security team, Martin's security team, Insight's team, they're still trying to kill Dolores, the replicated version of Martin. Dolores like, get out of here, like, go, we'll meet back up. She has some crazy kill, sneaks up quietly, disarms people, shoots them, throws the gun away, doesn't care. The last guy dies because the bike she summoned runs him over. Very cool moment. But she is hurt. She's gravely injured, and back by the water where the plane landed, she's kind of on her knees, and it's actually Caleb. This is where the storylines actually really converge. Caleb sees her and tends to her, and that's kind of the end of their storyline for this episode. We now know that the man officially behind the Rehoboam, the other co-founder, is Sirach, played by Vincent Cassell, who we will see very soon in this show. He was teased in the future episodes thing, which we'll talk about at the end of this breakdown. But I thought theirs was done well. And I don't think I didn't know. I thought maybe Aaron Paul's character might be from a different timeline. And we'll talk about what he might be in audience questions. But I like that it was one timeline. They didn't try to throw you for too much of a loop off the bat. They just really set things up and managed to set things up in a very intriguing and exciting way. So well done, I thought, for the main storyline. Mm-hmm. Pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect of Aaron Paul's character based off the trailer. I assumed that he was going to be a host and maybe one that they were using to help disguise himself in the human world or something like that. I did like the convergence of their storylines because based off of what you learn about Cal, you kind of figure out that he wants the same goal as Dolores, but for different reasons. It's kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of deal. Like he doesn't like the system because the system fucks with humans' ability for like to determine their own fate. Like this predetermination of whatever you're going to be in your life is what he doesn't like, and that system is fucking with him. And the system is also fucking with Dolores and the host because they won't let them survive in this world, and they never will. So they both want the same thing, which is assuming what's going to make them team up over the course of this season.
Yeah, and then let's move on to Bernard quick. We'll hit out the rest of these characters. Bernard is living on a farm when we first see him. He's cornered at a slaughterhouse. He's dressed down, looking, trying to be not very conspicuous. He's cornered at a slaughterhouse, though. They're like, that's the guy. That's the Bernard, because he's a wanted man. And they're beating the shit out of him. And then I wrote on my sheet, he activates basically sicko mode. He hits this like key fob. His eye, I think his eyes light up a little bit red. And then he just, boom, gets up and just Terminator beats the shit out of all of them. Kills them. These like,
great. That's a great scene. The Terminator, that's what I thought. I like the sicko mode. But yeah, as soon as you see someone with red eyes, you just know what's about to fucking happen.
Well, KenJac, I know you mentioned Jeffrey Wright. It's always nice to see Jeffrey Wright allowed to break out of the shell of very calm, cool, collected badass and just actually be a badass.
It's always the same thing. Every movie is calm, cool, and collected, and every show, if it doesn't matter if it's Boardwalk Empire, James Bond, or whatever, he's always the guy in the background pulling the strings, and never the guy down in the mud. And like seeing him just like literally press the Hulk button and go fucking ballistic and kill these dudes was sick. Especially the second dude he beat up who was like 6'7" and 300 pounds, and he just tosses him. It was sick.
Meat cleaver and everything. Yeah, no issue for him. His cover's blown, though. And at the end of the episode, we see him going to a boat. It's in an Asian country. I don't know exactly where it is. I don't think it might have said, I might have missed it. And he says, I'm going to Westworld. I need to go to Westworld. So he's going back, which I imagine is not what Dolores wants because we know that they're not exactly friends. And I have to imagine she doesn't want Bernard going back to Westworld, so that's going to be a big thing. Charlotte, we get a little bit of Charlotte. Again, Tessa Thompson. Charlotte is there physically, but we assume not actually Charlotte. We assume we don't know quite who the host is there. We don't know who's in the body. We don't know whose consciousness and mind is in there. But it is somebody else is what we're led to believe because the real Charlotte, the human Charlotte, the Delos CEO, who they believe is CEO, was killed. She's acting CEO. She has a meeting. She talks about Bernard and what happened at Westworld and how he's the most wanted man. She uses like the conference call mute button, but it's like hologram, so she just literally mutes the person's ability to talk. And they're like, oh, what the hell? Like, what did you do to me here? Great technology. Love that. We're not in a lot of meetings where we are, but And not that I want to mute a lot of people, but to have that option is got to be fantastic.
How have they not introduced that in the business world more often? Because half of every business conference call is, hey, make sure you're on mute. Make sure you're on mute. Make sure you're on mute. And over-talking each other. So how has that not been introduced?
And then lastly, this is the big oh shit moment, right? And that's Maeve. There's a post-credit scene where Maeve wakes up, so she is alive, confirmed, at least alive in some point in time. And she wakes up and she's in what I imagine is Germany, but whatever it is, it's Nazi Europe. It's World War II.
Let's hope she's in the past.
Yes.
Like, if she's just in the current timeline or maybe even in the future, and we're just doing the Nazi thing again, that's a bad spot.
I just don't know, but it is like, you're like, oh, what? Did not expect that.
One of the more shocking parts of the episode, I think, like you're kind of watching, you're like, I wonder what's going on, and then this opens up to full-on Nazi parade. It's not even like a little bit Nazi. It's full Nazi.
It is, yeah, it's very bad. So quick recap, Dolores, after this company Insight, trying to figure something out. Rehoboam, this big supercomputer, that's like, I think, the physical villain. We're going to meet Vincent Cassell, the human villain, or we assume, well, we don't know. Maybe he's not fucking human at this point. Who's Sirach. You have Caleb, Aaron Paul's character, who is now teamed up with Dolores trying to help her. We know Bernard is going back to Westworld. Charlotte is not exactly Charlotte, but still running Delos. And then Maeve is in World War II, apparently, for all we know. Audience questions. Who is in Charlotte's body? This is a big question, maybe the biggest question right now. In terms of those characters, the preview for the weeks ahead in Westworld that HBO put out, there is a question of who is in your body or who am I? I know that was mentioned a couple of times by characters. So that clearly is going to be addressed. And I know we have discussed that maybe it is still Charlotte in some way because like Bernard was built back up as Bernard. But the way it's teased, it doesn't sound like it's actually Charlotte. It sounds like it's not. It's somebody else. I don't have a guess. That question came from @MIKELAPENTA, by the way. I don't really have if it's not Charlotte based on the tease, I don't know.
If it's not Charlotte, I have no idea. I would like it to be Charlotte, though. I would like Westworld to kind of go Fast and Furious, where like Fast just brings characters back and kills them off as it pleases. So it's like, it's just Charlotte, and she's just back. And I'd be like, okay. In Westworld, I would accept that. Like,
well,
fine.
Somebody says in the tease, and I think it might have been Maeve. Somebody asks if she is actually Teddy, James Marsden's character.
I don't think so. I think Teddy's arc's done.
They brought him up, though. Do you think it's a possibility? Do you think that's just a bait and switch? Because it's in the tease. If it's in the tease, there's almost no way it's really true.
Right. I wouldn't be. I'm going to say no chance it's Teddy.
Okay.
I would say I think that it's possible it could just be an altered version of her because obviously a big point of last season was how they're cloning everybody who came to the park, essentially like, reading their minds, their thoughts, and reinventing their consciousness. So maybe they were able to just take the carbon copy of her and then like alter the code so that they just she does what they say. So she does what Dolores says.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that. That makes complete sense. I don't have a great guess, though. I really don't have a solid guess. We also see Bernard going to Westworld for something. And so @J___D asks, is Bernard going to find Maeve? It's implied, I believe it's Luke Hemsworth's character, which it's Stubbs,
Ashley,
right?
Ashley Stubbs.
Right. I believe he is the one asking in the preview, like, oh, are you here to find Maeve? Like, why are you here? So it sounds like that is the case. I don't think that being in the tease is a bait and switch. I think Bernard is going to find Maeve.
Yeah, I think he would. And also, they kind of said, they implied that he's a host as well, right, Stubbs? In the last season, I'm pretty sure they implied that like he was also he worked for Ford, I believe, and then like he didn't have a master to report to after all of it was over at the end of the last season. So I could see him helping out Bernard now in this sort of situation. And obviously the one thing Bernard wants, like he sort of wants the same end-to-end goal, which is the freedom of host as Dolores, but he obviously is going a different way about it. He wants the hosts and humans to live symbiotically, and Dolores doesn't think that's possible. So he needs to find a way to sort of just prove that. Maybe, I don't know if it's a turn-off button or whatever, but just find a way to make it, to prove to humanity that hosts can be trusted not to be murdering psychopaths like Dolores.
Yeah, and she seems to have a very big arc. It looks like she links up with Ciroc at one point, or
Ciroc boy, P. Diddy, the main villain of this.
So we saw the preview. So I think him going to find Maeve does make sense. This is the one Reddit thing I want to address. It's from user Tethered Flood. He put up a side-by-side shot. I'm going to show you guys. If you're watching this video, you're going to see it on the screen. And he's talking about, is Aaron Paul's character stuck in a loop? Is Caleb stuck in a loop? Because you see a picture of Dolores waking up when she was stuck in a loop. And we saw Caleb, Aaron Paul's character, wake up as well in that same way of like, oh, like they're stuck in this never-ending loop. And, you know, his mother doesn't recognize him.
Wake up every day. I said that's how I wake up every day.
Oh, okay.
Like,
so you're
I remember Aaron Paul waking up with that, and it wasn't me going. My first thought wasn't, oh, I bet this is some kind of endless loop. My first thought was, yeah, that's life.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point, right? It's. I think it's just imagery showing how, like, you know, we watch the host do it, and we're like, wow, sucks to be them, and then we're like, oh yeah, we do literally the same thing every single day.
Same exact thing. Exact thing.
But don't put it past him to put a visual cue in there. Put a little visual clue of like, he's in a loop. Because remember, his mother doesn't recognize him.
Right.
You know, or doesn't.
You're not my son.
Yeah, it's not that he doesn't recognize him. Which, KenJac, I know you had mentioned at one point that there is a bit of a hint that could be the case too from the previous season.
Yeah,
not my son.
Yeah, when they had the whole thing with like they were taking the people out of the Native American tribe, a lot of the people in the tribe were saying like, I know that's not my son, I know that's not my daughter, whatever. They kept making points to say like, I recognize that this is not the person I'm used to.
So it could be a little
I wasn't sure how I felt about that, and then that little detail that spun me a bit yesterday. That I thought people were looking into it a little too much, and but that one I like. It's
almost too easy this episode. Like, it's got to be something. Got to be something missed. And then finally, at Badger Guy 97, how many takes was the MARSHAWN lynch punch?
One.
It had to be one.
It was one, and they were just like, I mean, he's not going to get this.
MARSHAWN, you want to do it again? No.
Nope.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
I mean, it was one of the worst punches I've seen thrown, like post 70s. Maybe like I mean the physical fighting in older films and television is.
He very clearly missed by about a foot.
It was crazy. I think he hits him in the chest too. Like it's such a weird. I don't know if MARSHAWN Lynch ever thrown a punch.
I think if you film that scene and you're planning on it all being slow motion, but then you watch that tape, you just say, okay, this can't be in slow motion. You just fix the scene. You got to warp the scene so that you don't have that slow motion anymore. To me, 10 times worse than it would have been in
let him
regular
speed. Let him do his thing.
You just stiff arm the guy into the floor.
Yeah. Didn't he have something at that point? Oh, no, he didn't. I wish he did. If he had something, he could have just done the stiff arm. Final thoughts. I think we covered everything. Again, the preview shows Man in Black wakes up in like a flooded area, which he was in a flooded area, I believe, when he woke up in the post-credit scene. We see a lot of Maeve no longer dressed like she's in World War II, so it's got to be maybe some sort of Westworld-ish simulation. I don't know. We don't know for sure, but it was one of those previews. The in this season and the weeks ahead previews are always the least useful ones because they pluck from so many areas and they try to fuck with you. But we know we're going to see some characters we haven't seen much of yet very soon. But again, I liked it. I was very pessimistic on it the second season. I caught back up. I went through recaps. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to buy in, and I'm happy where we're at. I'm very excited. Maybe it's part of the fact that we're all stuck at home for the foreseeable future, where anything new I'm just craving. But no, I think regardless, I'm just excited.
I'm excited. I'm very in. I was very much with you. Westworld season 1 was one of my favorite television shows I can remember in a long time. Season 2, I like you, kind of lost a bit, kind of crapped out on it, didn't finish the season. But I'm back in. I'm back all the way in for season 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I think it's at least a very, very promising start. And I'm with both you guys that season 2, it felt maybe a little repetitive. We're getting a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. You know how like kind of in Westworld, the killing was spaced out. So it was something where like, oh, this guy just got shot. Oh, this just happened. This was just like nonstop action. and I didn't feel like there was a lot of, kind of like plot line really going on. And this one, I feel like you're getting a good setup for what is going to be a good story and a really good world building so far, which I always love.
Yep. Good fucking stuff. This was fun. We've recorded this twice now. I think it was just as fun the second time. If no matter where you're watching, let us know in the comments below who you think Charlotte is. I think that's the one. What's your guess on Charlotte? What's the vibe you're getting? If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon. You'll know when these come out. They'll be out every Monday where we have the right software. They'll be out Mondays after the show, hopefully early afternoon. We also do these on Fridays for Star Wars, The Clone Wars. We're doing these for Succession, all the Marvel stuff, though, whenever how that comes out. I don't know when that's going to be now. But this was good. We'll have another one next week for the second episode. Do you think – I've asked this before, but I'll ask again. Do you think we'll do any of these in studio based on quarantine?
I'll tell you what. I feel like it's a big part of law. You have to sneak a little Corona into every recording nowadays. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty optimistic. I saw yesterday that China China has officially already shut down all their temporary hospitals. I think a few weeks, everyone hunker down, we'll be good.
We'll see if we do this in person for the finale. We'll see. Because I'd like the nice big logo on the TV, We'll see. All right, we'll stay positive. Everyone stay safe out there. Again, hit the like button. We appreciate that. Give your thoughts below. For KenJac and Mr. Feitelberg, I'm Jeff Lowe. We'll talk to you next time.